Afternoon, everybody. Wow, 203 people.
Hello, Simon.
Hi, Simon.
Hi, Simon.
I'll try to see. There we go. Yeah, it's big numbers, Kevin. Is it me that's going to share the deck, Kevin, or is it? I can do it myself. That probably works best, doesn't it?
Yeah, Simon, I think if you share it, it probably works best, and I'll keep an eye on the slide up.
Boom, 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 boom. Are we okay to go, do we think? Do we give it another minute or so?
Hard to tell, Simon. I don't think we've ever had this many people on the call.
Well, it's very encouraging to get this level of, 250. Once we get to 250, I'll make a start. Thanks, everybody, for joining anyway. And Kevin, just if hands go up and everything else that I won't see it, just stop me and buy one if anybody's got any problems, yeah?
No hassle at all.
Okay, so here we are. Yeah, welcome to the market-wide half-hourly settlement programs design overview playback kickoff session, if that's not too much of a mouthful. Over the next hour or so, I'm going to walk you through our approach to how we're going to update different constituencies, different levels of engagement with the program with the work that's been done on the design to date. Colleague Claire will then talk you through how you can engage with the design and be part of the activity that as we head towards the big milestone of accepting the design at the end of October. The overview of the session is we're going to use there's several streams, and you might have seen a plan on the page for the design playback. There was a deck issued yesterday about the state of the artifacts, the traceability, things like that. What I'm trying to do in this session is add a bit more life to that one. What we're trying to do here is to present is to provide signposting for newer entrants, but also for those of you that have been engaged with the program for some time now, just to understand which sessions you might want to engage with across the next few weeks. We're very conscious that we're doing this in August. Our own resources are quite constrained by annual leave and different circumstances like that, but every session is going to be recorded and it will be available within a day on YouTube, and the slides will all be available on the collaboration space by the end of the day. You can reach out to myself or any of the colleagues that are working on the program if you have problems with access or anything along those lines. The approach is we're going to talk about the overall design, the artifacts, the constitution of that one, and then how we look to walk through the playback. We'll talk through the different types of sessions, and then you'll see some very complicated pictures that have been driving me a little bit insane to try and help understand which of the sessions might be most relevant to you in the role that your organization plays in the overall market. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand what we're planning to do over the next 5 or 6 weeks when it comes to playback. We're intending for this to be quite a responsive process so that some of the later sessions could be driven by the feedback we receive as we go through this. You should know which sessions are most appropriate for yourselves or your colleagues to join, and what value you might get from these. One of the points that we've made is rather than interrupt, I mean, it's all right for me, I'm just doing the kickoff, but as we get into the sessions with the subject matter experts, what we're keen to do is to get as much content across as possible without being sort of caught up on individual point issues or questions from individuals. The sessions have been designed so that we're going to have some time at the end to review some of the feedback that you provide through Slido. I'm assuming everybody's had a go at Slido. You just log on to Slido and use that hashtag MHHS there, and the comments will be populated. As I say, Kevin and his colleagues are checking those as we go through. And what we'll do afterwards is collect and theme the responses on Slido and come up with some specific or generic answers, but that will then also inform our sort of design FAQs that we'll be building out in due course on the collaboration space. So just initially, in a bit of a kickoff, what is the design for the market-wide half-hourly program? We were given the off-gem target operating model, which was a fairly simple set of, I think it was 8 or 9 boxes explaining, the new services that would be introduced. Some of you will have seen this, some of you won't. This is, and no apologies, this is called the Patrick diagram. We can explain that to you at some point if you wish, but it's something to do with the pink blob underneath on the scope. But that's effectively, this is trying to show the new services.
Sorry, Simon,
yeah.
We can't see the changing of the slides there. So you might be sharing on the wrong screen. It's still on the original introductory slide without being blown up.
All right, let me try again.
It was all going too smoothly.
It was all going too smoothly. It's very complicated.
There we go. We can see the introductory slide there now.
So we went through this one. Can you see this now?
We can indeed. We can see the approach and session overview slide.
So that's what I spoke to, and now I'm on to the problem with doing this in Teams is you can't really see the slide that you've got, but there you go. I should know what I've created. This is the Patrick diagram, and this shows the new services in a context of the smart meters, the traditional meters, the advanced meters, the unmetered sites across the top. You've got DCC, which wasn't shown on the off-gem Tom. You've got suppliers that weren't shown on the off-gem Tom, and the DIP itself, the data integration platform, the new message interchange capability that we are introducing through the program. And then we've broken network responsibilities out into network operations and registration. And Elexon itself has got new services and their existing services. So effectively, this diagram has been a bit of it's the highest level design that we're working to. It shows you the new interfaces in blue lines and the existing interfaces that we're not changing in black lines. And that's effectively a summary of the design. You don't need to get to the bottom of this straight away. It's been an evolving picture. For those of us that have been with us on the journey, you'll see that I've added EES and echoes in this iteration, which is something that's emerged through the work of the design work stream to identify this. Sorry, there's a question come up there. Can everybody see these slides?
I can see them, Simon. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs come up. Yeah,
thumbs are coming up. Yeah, so yeah, that's fine. Somebody just asked a question there; it just pinged up.
See.
Yeah, that's great, helpful. Thank you. What I will use is this as a background to explain some of the context and signposting. If it makes sense to you, suppliers are bottom left. The supplier agents run through the middle, the metering and the data. This is what you used to know as the MOPs and the DCs, DAs. Elexons across the bottom, networks are on the right. And the dip in the middle is what is going to partially replace the DTN. So in substance, that's it. And then I will use this sort of visual map to explain where some of the process artifacts sit, some of the journeys occur as we go through. Now, the design itself at the moment will be issued. I think by Monday they will have all been issued out for review. It's rendered through 80 different artifacts. They've all followed a similar approach. And they've been developed through many dozens of working group meetings over the course of the past 9-12 months or so. And we will have 22 business process diagrams that are basically BPMN swim lanes, as you might have associated in many industry processes before. There are description documents to go alongside of those that support the steps inside of those swim lanes. There's business requirement specifications, and we've got about 13 of those for the newer services that highlight, the details that sit outside of the process descriptions. There will be an interface catalog, so all those blue lines on the previous document will be rendered into 52 logical interfaces, which describes the data items, who sends them, who receives them. It looks very much like you'd expect any kind of interface catalog or the data transfer catalog to look. There's a reporting catalog which has been recently developed, which is the services that will be provided by Elexon Central Services, so you can consume the information relevant to settlement and consumption under the market-wide half-hourly. We've got a bunch of supporting artifacts, as you might expect, method statements that explain some of the calculations behind load shapes, how we expect operational choreography, which is the timings of those processes, a logical data model, things like that. And then there are some technical artifacts which mainly address the non-functional requirements, the end-to-end architecture, and some security documents as well. There's 3 there, such as the code of connection. So there are 80 documents in this design, and we are asking the industry to review and provide comments back against these documents, which is quite a lot. A lot of them have been out and agreed already, but this is the sum total of the design. This is the first time we've got all of them together in a position where we're asking people to review them. What we would, on my next slide, is then playback sessions. So those 80 documents, and then this is how we're asking you guys to engage with the process as we move forward. And I come up with sort of 4 personas there. One, I'm new to the program. Where do I start? You know, I'm aware of and engaged with the program, but I'm no expert. People that have been an active participator and contributor to the program, and then a subject matter expert that might be joining the program, as specifically an expert in design, in security, in settlement, in metering, things like that. And then down the right-hand side, these are the sessions that we're proposing to host over the next 5 or 6 weeks. There's a global session such as this one, the kickoff. We'll do a review after we've gone through the first tranche, and then we'll do a retrospective, suggesting that, you know, the people who want to attend those, you just follow your lines. The red lines go into the different boxes. On Friday, I will be presenting a design overview where we go through what is the TOM, what are the different services on the TOM, you know, what are the, you know, how have we got to where we've got to, what groups have existed, those kinds of things. So an introductory, high-level, hour-long session or so. Basically, I've done one before, and we'll do it again. We'll record it. But that's basically your primer for what the program design is all about. We're proposing to host 4 end-to-end walkthroughs, and I will go through the detail of these on the next couple of slides. And again, but that's a deeper dive into the business processes that we've agreed that map across those new services. We're offering some design expert surgeries with the relevant experts, the guys that have led the design and documented the artifacts, business analysts, architects, business analysts, etc. So you know, it's your opportunity to raise questions and engage with the SMEs on very specific areas. And then there'll be a couple of deep dives. We've had a deep dive requested from the networks on unmetered. We're offering a deep dive on technology and everything else like that. And that's where, rather than just going through the artifacts, we'll go to a slightly deeper level to walk you through some of the more specific aspects of what the design is introducing and how that might impact and affect your businesses. The next couple of slides lay out the timings. You should have seen something similar to this before. This is a schedule, and it gives you a high-level overview of what's going to be covered in these sessions. As I said, the overviews are fairly straightforward, and then we've got the end-to-end walkthrough. So there you'll see next Monday, we've got an introductory walkthrough, which is basically the history of the program, the target operating model, what the DIP is, our approach to testing and consequential change. So which is a bit of a contextual one. I'd recommend that for pretty much everybody. Meets the bank, which is a session basically you trace the fact that, you know, a supplier is appointed and then it gets consumption information into settlement. It runs through all of those areas. NPAN ownership, I think we've actually got the definition twisted a bit here, Kevin. We'll have to tidy that one up. NPAN ownership is not. I think meets the bank should be the 3rd row there, and NPAN ownership is the 2nd row. And metering changes is fine. But effectively, we'll go on to a bit more detail there. Then this is the timings of the surgeries and the deep dives. And this, again, is related to resource availability, where we're working around individuals' holidays. The guys have been slogging themselves to death to get the design out, and some of them need a bit of a rest and a breather. And they've been holding off annual leave to get us to this point. But over the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks, we will get through these details. And again, the technical deep dive, for instance, will cover the data interface platform, data integration platform, or the end-to-end architecture, functional requirements, etc. And that's what's in the technical. Unmetered, we're looking at one on settlement as well, because there's been quite a lot of changes in that area. Playback session. So the plan on the page, these are the timings of the things. And as we said, it doesn't really follow a specific logical order around that. But that's the plan on the page that explains, you know, when we're hosting these sessions. And sort of in early September, we'll take a bit of a stop and a review and determine if we need further deep dives, if we need to do more to work with specific constituencies. We chose to go with a walkthrough of the business processes rather than saying having a session specific to suppliers. And you'll see later on that suppliers do cover quite a lot of the scope. And so there'd be a lot of content that was replayed in a supplier session versus a network session versus a service provider session. We've chosen to break it down into the actual business processes themselves. And so people might be attending 3 or 4 workshops rather than going to one specific longer session that would address all those processes, but done it several times in a row for different constituencies. we believe this is the right way to do it, but we will take feedback as we go through. If we need to do a bit more work with specific constituencies because they're not getting enough airtime, or we're finding that you need more help, then we can certainly have a look at that and pick it up in the second half of September.
So I might just come in there, because we've had just a quick question from two people about how to get the access to those different sessions, which I can answer there just to make sure we get that out of the way. I'll drop the link into the chat there, which essentially has the table that Simon just ran through. We are running all the signups and registration through Eventbrite. So if you see on the left-hand column in the session title, if you click on that hyperlink, it'll take you to the relevant Eventbrite page for that session. You can then register and sign up for the event as well, and then export it into your calendar. So there's 3 different ways then after that you can access the Teams link. The Teams link will be in your ticket on the Eventbrite as well. We will also send out a reminder email 2 days before to every person who is registered for that event, which will include the Teams link. And then finally, we are able to export all those who have signed up from Eventbrite, and we will add them to the Teams invite directly also as well. So 3 different ways you can get the Teams link, but just one way you can actually sign up for the events through Eventbrite, and I'll drop in that link now.
Fantastic, thank you, Kevin. The logistics around this has been admirably resolved, and the guys are right across it. So do shout up if you've got any further concerns. So yeah, plan on the page, and then here's a little thumbnail of that top row. So on here, the overview sessions, the 4 or 5 that we got there. Here's a thumbnail of what we'd expect, and the purpose, the intended audience, and the outcomes. I'm not going to read out slides to you. That we've all got other things to be doing rather than have me read slides out to you. But effectively, today's overview, the introduction, then we'll do that sort of basic ABC session as well later this week. In early September, we'll be looking at a review of where we've come to, the themes of feedback that we're picking up through Slido, and any emerging issues that we might need to have a look at. There is an open day in early September as well, and there'll be an opportunity to engage with the design team there in the marketplace here in the building in London. And then we'll take a retrospective as well. We imagine that this design playback is on the design as it's been proposed for the M5 milestone. We will have further playback sessions as we go through the life of the program. There might be one about interfacing with the DIP. There might be one around how do you get involved in user testing or qualification, things like that. This whole playback approach is something that we will use again. And so it'd be really helpful for us as a program towards the end of this playback to have a retrospective on what went well and what do we need to pick up and move for further engagements like this, where it's not just a one-off webinar, but more of a sustained engagement activity with program participants. I haven't got a similar slide for the teal and purple and lilac boxes, but I'm going to walk you through some very complicated looking pictures now, and no apologies for this one. And I think it's the best way of us being able to do this without writing great long schedules of things. So design signposting. So yeah, that complicated picture is represented by 80 artifacts, which we appreciate is quite a lot for people to go at. But hopefully I will be able to give you a bit of help in understanding how these break down and which areas you might need to be able to focus on. So playback themes, as we said, we've got MPAN ownership there, we've got metering changes, meter to bank, and then supporting artifacts. And those are your 80 artifacts broken down. There will be some overlap in some of the interfaces, some of the business processes that run across some of those. But effectively for MPAN ownership, for the end-to-end walkthrough, Sean will be leading you through a discussion of the 8 implicated business processes, which I'll show you in a minute, and the 18 interfaces that are used by those business processes. And similarly, when we get to meter to bank, you'll see that we're getting closer to some of the settlement activities. And so there are business requirements around new services for settlement. There's some method statements in there, and there are other designer artifacts in there. Those 2 for meter to bank, I think, are about the reporting elements of the settlement design. And then the supporting artifacts that are not specifically addressed in any of the walkthrough documents, workshops, but will be picked up in reference along those, or in the deep dives on technology and things. We've got some security artifacts, we've got some technical artifacts as well. And so all of the 80 artifacts will be addressed either in the walkthrough sessions or in one of the deep dive sessions. Every single one of them will be picked up in one of those spaces, and we are tagging and showing that to move this one through. What I'll show you next is how we're breaking those first three themes or journeys down across that TOM visual. So MPAN ownership are the pink blocks, and it shows that there are business processes in the areas relating to the DCC, to change of supplier, to change of metering service. The appointment of service providers covers 4 of the key activities in MPAN ownership. And then there's a couple of things around registration data, new connection as well. So those are the themes. And then for the metering changes, you'll see there's something around change of segment. And there's a change of meter and energization stations, you might imagine. And then the meter to bank is the collection of data and the submission of it into the new half-hourly services that are being created for Alexon. So again, we go from that very complicated picture to a rather less complicated selection of, I think it's around, there were 20 or so different business processes that the program is introducing, which has then got artifacts hanging off each one. So as an example, the meter to bank process, which is I think it's the first session next Friday, we'll look at these business processes. The walkthrough session on the 12th of August. Yeah, I knew I'd put a little box on there to help myself. And you'll see that for data collection, data processing, the team, which I think will be Justin and Kevin, will walk through, the relevant business process and the interfaces that are included for data collection, data processing, and then explaining the market-wide, the industry standing, the load shaping, the volume allocation, and then the rather more sort of specific areas around demanded disconnection and consumption effect alteration. And so they will be able to talk you through, and they will demonstrate to you in these sessions. These are the swim lanes, so the yellow boxes, and this is you could well point to the methodology statements. They could point to the business requirement specifications as well. And so those are the scope of the artifacts that will be relevant to the walkthrough session on the 12th of August. From a similar perspective, on the 16th of August, MPAN ownership, there's a lot of blue on this one, but as you might expect, we do use the same interface repeatedly for service provider appointment, de-appointment, those kinds of things. And again, this one addresses change of supplier, it's change of service provider, it's updating registration information in MPRS, MPAS, wherever, and then new connections, as well as some of the refreshers into CSS and DCC around the introduction of the new metadata retriever role. But again, a lot of interfaces in there, but again, it's 2, 4, 6, 8 business processes being covered there that do follow a similar theme. And so Sean, Alyssa, whoever's running that session will walk you through those swim lanes and those activities just to highlight particularly, where things are changing from current, where things are being deprecated, those kinds of areas. But it will be, the swim lane will be thrown up, and then the expert will walk you through how the process is intended to work and which process it inherits from, which ones it hands off to, those kinds of things. So it will be an hour and a half of discussion of the content that's being shown on this page. And then the final one is around metering changes. Again, metering changes, as you might expect, change of meter, change of energization status, some stuff around change of segment, and then disconnection as well. So relatively, what's the right word? It's not quite as expansive in scope as the MPAN ownership on the meter to bank, but clearly an important area of work anyway. But again, that's the session on the 19th of August. We're expecting, again, the program's metering experts will be on hand to walk through those processes, explain those interfaces, and then resolve questions as you raise them through the slider. And then what will be covered in the intro next Monday and in the further deep dive and the surgery sessions will be the supporting artifacts, the ones that are not addressed by those key business processes. So we've got quite a bit on here around requirements specific to suppliers. We've got the methodology statements that apply to validation and estimation in each of the data services. There's the security documents. There are the technical end-to-end documents. There's quite a lot of sort of supporting documentation again around registration and the central settlement. So there's quite a lot to cover in those artifacts. But I think I've now explained in those 4 or 5 slides how those 80 design artifacts will be addressed in 4, possibly 6 or 7 of the design sessions as you go through. The mapping of the individual artifacts on this particular slide to sessions is something that I might be able to come up with, but it's almost it's going to be tricky to understand because some of these do cut right across the logical data model. The operational choreography will be addressed in intro and across each one of those ones because they're more of a horizontal design reference. And then I've got, as I said, I hadn't done the thumbnails up front, but these are the little thumbnails to explain what happens in the walkthrough sessions, what we're going to cover, who's the intended audience, and what the outcomes should be. So, yeah, for the themes there of meter to bank, MPAN ownership, metering changes, that's what should be covered in those. These are the deep dives. We've got technical, advanced, unmetered, and settlement identified at the moment as time sessions of around 90 minutes for, although I noticed, Kevin, the deep dive one's due to run for just an hour there. That's fine. That's okay. We shouldn't need much more than an hour from metered, hopefully. But again, this will be where we will unpick a particular process where where either we believe that participants could benefit from a deeper dive, or we've been asked to provide a deeper dive. And we will go into more detail again around the requirements, the processes, the interfaces on these specific topics. And we'll take a beat in early September to see if further sessions are required. We might not need a deep dive, and the phrase I've been using is some people might need a bit of a shallow paddle on some broader areas that don't need the SMEs to do it. Something that myself or my team could walk, newer program engaged people through some of those elements. It's slightly a lower level than the design overview, but still doesn't need the full blooded SMEs to walk you through it. And then the surgeries, I don't know if it was a great allegory, but I did say that this could be a bit like Prime Minister's question time, in that we'd be looking for people to log questions beforehand via Slido and via Kevin and his colleagues, so that the SMEs could do some prep for pre-cut questions, but that we'd also take questions from the floor. These sessions would be facilitated by someone such as myself or Kevin, and we'd be the speaker of the house, and we'd make sure, if somebody was putting their hand up, we'd get to them all in turn. But we wouldn't want to sweat any topic for more than 5 or 10 minutes, because the value here is in the breadth of engagement with participants, rather than falling down a particular rabbit hole of a topic. We've had a number of those in the program where specific issues or specific hobby horses can occupy a lot of bandwidth. We need to get the most value out of these sessions for as many people as possible. So we'll be facilitating them quite tightly on the terms of engagement. But again, those surgeries should be great opportunities for you to engage with the people that have documented the design that the industry's discussed. And so if you're new to the program and you go, well, why haven't they thought about this? These are the guys that'll tell you, oh, we did discuss that for 2 or 3 meetings, and the conclusion is here. And they'll be able to point to the design issues log or the design dissensus log on those kinds of matters. So again, it's these sessions should be helpful in a more interactive way than potentially the walkthroughs and the deep dives, which will be more of a push of content and intended to be replayed by people who aren't able to make the sessions or come to this later in the process. I'm now going to try and one of the part early in March, Ian Smith, who's the design leader, myself, we did a bit of signposting with different constituencies onto which areas should individual sort of groups of companies focus on. And so what I've got here is I've got some slides, and again, no apologies for how complicated visually these might look, but hopefully what you've got on there are the 20+ business processes. And what I'm trying to do now is highlight which ones will be relevant to each of the constituencies. So should you choose to focus on reviewing the artifacts rather than covering all of the walkthrough sessions, that's perfectly acceptable and the way that you might want to engage with this. So as an illustration, the first one, every one of those yellow boxes with an S next to it has been tagged by the design team as needing a supplier to review it, or should be considered by suppliers. So we've got 16 out of the 20 that are on the page do need some player engagement. The ones that don't are around the DCC, and I think there's some specific to settlement ones, demand disconnection, things like that, that aren't specifically relevant to suppliers. Suppliers are perfectly entitled to review and provide comments against those, but we say, you know, that everybody's looking at the finite resource. These are the ones that we'd recommend that suppliers pay particular attention to, and you know, please look at these slides at your leisure afterwards. The next one that I've got is and again, I'm still keeping to the colour scheme: orange for networks, blue for suppliers. These are the areas that we think there's 11 there that we've got network consideration in. Either they'll be on the swim lanes, or there will be changes within those processes that could impact networks. I've done similar for, there we go, the service providers, both the ones that are owned by suppliers, which are the A, and the I, which are the independent ones, and also tagged which ones would be for data service and which ones would be for metering service and which would be for metering or data service providers. And again, there's around 14 out of the 20 there that would be relevant to that particular constituency. And then because we did it in March, these are ones relevant to the DCC, for the people that are reviewing the architecture of the DCC, and these are the ones that are relevant to Elexon, specifically Project Helix. And as you'd expect, the DCC stuff is on the north of the page, and the Elexon stuff is on the south of the page. But that's signposting to say these are the business processes, and using the spreadsheet that was shared, or the slides that were shared yesterday by Claire, who will come on to in a minute. There is a traceability here from the left of the high-level processes, MPAN ownership, into the business processes, then into the sort of supporting artifacts and interfaces. So if we're recommending that Elexon look at load shaping services, there will be a bunch of artifacts that hang off of that specific service that are in scope of recommendation for review. And I know I've whistled through that in about half an hour for 30 slides. If we move now on to Claire, are you there?
I am.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Simon.
Shall I move you on to the first slide? Claire's going to walk us through how you can engage with the design review over the coming weeks.
Sure. Simon, yes, so I was going to talk through a little bit around the design process and just a little bit of the mechanics around some of what Simon's already spoken to. So the full set of design artifacts will be available from Monday, the 8th of August, and they will be available on the collaboration base and on the MHHS website. They will be on the collaboration base grouped by the themes that Simon's talked about, so aligned to the playback sessions. So we will have a page for MPAN ownership, a page for metering changes, and a page for meters to bank. And then we'll have a page for the supporting documents. As Simon mentioned, we did publish yesterday on the website and on the collaboration base a design review guide, which includes a breakdown of the signposting that Simon's just gone through. And there is a design artifact matrix, which breaks all of the artifacts down in a spreadsheet and signposts those to the recommended constituency areas to prioritise your review. So all of that information is available at the moment. We are sending out additional comms in the clock tomorrow if people haven't seen that, and that will have the links directly to those supporting documents. The comment window opens officially on the 30th of August for review of all of the artifacts. It's running for a 3-week period and closing on the 16th of September. That's not to say that if people want to submit their comments earlier than that, that's absolutely fine. There will be a comment log available on the collaboration base and on the website, which you can download and then either upload back to the collaboration base or email directly to the design inbox. Comments can be submitted earlier than that, but just for clarity, we won't be responding to any comments until the comment window has closed. I guess the other point to note is that the design artifacts have gone through, as Simon mentioned, several iterations of review already. So they've been developed in collaboration with the design working groups. Since November, we've run over 100 working groups, and we've had over 60 organisations input into the design. We've also released 3 tranches now of design artifacts for industry review, and we've received over 2,000 comments on those, which led to some of the artifacts being conditionally approved by the design advisory group. That conditional approval was subject to an agreed list of design issues and dependencies to be resolved. So when we release the artifacts for review on Monday, we will also be releasing a summary report of the resolution of all of those issues. And some of the conditionally approved artifacts will be re-released and moved to under review, where we've made updates to resolve those issues and dependencies. Those documents will have tracked changes. The new documents as part of tranche 4 won't have any track changes, but just the conditionally approved ones. If we can just skip on to the next slide, please, Simon. Thank you. So in terms of the review, only the elements of that are change marked are open to comment for the conditionally approved artifacts. The remaining artifacts are have no remaining issues and aren't open to comment. Obviously, the full end-to-end design will be there for everyone to review for those of you who haven't seen them already. We do ask, as part of the comment feedback, that the comments are specific and constructive, and wherever possible, that parties provide detail of the suggested change or the action to resolve the concern and any impact of us not making that change to the design. Points to consider within the review are around whether the design meets the requirements of the agreed target operating model and whether it adheres to the design principles. The design principles have been published in the signposting pack that I referred to earlier, and whether the design is complete and sufficient enough for you to commence your detailed design activities and any associated sourcing of software and services. We have in previous tranches received a lot of comments which are questions and seeking clarification around the design. So we have taken a number of measures to try to reduce the number of clarification questions we get and keep the comments specific to changes to the design. So if we can just skip on to the next slide, please, Simon. So clearly we'll be running all of the playback sessions as Simon's spoken to, and there will be opportunities to ask questions, particularly in the design surgeries for clarification around any elements of the design. We will also be publishing a clarification log, which will be a central source of all of our frequently asked questions. That will be kept maintained as we go through the playback sessions to reflect all of the feedback that we've received, and hopefully will be a bit of a one-stop shop for people to check the log to see if anyone's asked that question before. We will be using the clock and the design newsletter to elaborate on any key themes of feedback, questions and clarifications that we think will help people with their review. And I guess direct support is also available by contacting either your PPC reps within the PPC team or by contacting the design team at the design mailbox, and we can pick any questions up there. So I think that was all I was going to cover, Simon.
Thank you, Claire. Very helpful. Claire as well. And we have raced through this, to be honest. We've got through, I've got through 30 odd slides in 30 odd minutes. We've got some time now to pick up any key questions on Slido. I know there's been quite a lot of pinging on Teams as well. read out the question? Or,
yeah, so
if we take, I mean, yeah, I'd say, well, let's take 10 or 15 minutes to go through anything on Slido, but we don't need to occupy people's time if we don't need it. So if we can clear things out in the next 5 or 10 minutes, that's great. We can call a cease to things and look forward to the playback kicking off later in the week.
Yep, absolutely, no problem. Just 2 questions that were in the chat that I can address straight away. One of them is on there being no open day in the kind of schedule that I linked through. Communications and the link to sign up for the open day will be issued fairly soon, probably in the next week. Will the slides be on the clock or in the design portal for every single one of the design playback sessions, including this session? We will publish all the slides. We will send out a link to every participant who was at the meeting. All sessions are also recorded as well, and those will be posted on the MHHS YouTube. I'm going to move now over to some of the questions that we've received on Slido. First one in here, Simon, one for you. Will the surgeries be bilateral? I suppose multilateral might be the best kind of description of that one.
Yes, that's the intention. Absolutely.
All right, perfect.
As I said, it's like we'd be looking for people to log questions beforehand so that the SMEs can prepare and things, but discussions will turn into discussions. We just need to moderate them carefully.
Excellent, brilliant. As we get into internal detailed development, what access to program experts will there be for clarification, i.e. is there a longer term plan to assist program participants? This sounds like something on the enduring design, Simon, perhaps?
It is. Like there will be access to resource both from the SMEs that have worked on this. My own design assurance team will be working alongside the program party coordinator with bilateral sessions. We already have quite a lot of bilateral discussions with individual organizations on design. I've got one later this afternoon, a long-standing one with the Independent Networks Association, where we talk through sort of program design matters. There will be access to individuals for all participants. We will be doing offering support for almost a design assurance activity for all participants as well, just to help you absorb, consume, consider, and reflect upon the design and the implications for your businesses.
Brilliant, thank you, Sam. Quite a heavily upvoted question here, which says that 1.5 hours does not seem a long time to cover some very complex processes. Are there any contingency sessions planned?
We are relatively resource constrained for the SMEs, as in we need to get a lot of this done during August before the comment windows open, because we want to be able to support people as they raise comments and clarifications through that comment window that opens at the end of August. But as we get through the walkthrough sessions, if people say, well, we need more time to go into subject A or subject B, then of course we will consider that and see what we can do to address that in the opportunities in September.
Excellent, thank you. Will there be any sessions held on the high-level principles of the DIP, subscribe and publish, frequency of messages, etc.?
I think that will be covered in the technical deep dive, where you'll have Rob Golding, who's the solution architect, and Kev Gleason, who's the security architect, where we'll go through the aspects that are captured in the end-to-end and DIP functional specification artifacts.
Super, thank you. Another one here on kind of availability. It says that given that many sessions are in the week before and after the August bank holiday, could these be moved or repeated, please, to enable people to attend?
We're going to find that very tricky. As I say, Kevin will bear witness to, we've had to do quite a lot of fiddling around other program meetings and resource availability to slot these sessions in. We are recording them and making everything available, and then, as I say, there will be an opportunity for some wash up post in September, but I don't think we're really in a position to move any of the sessions that we've got planned at the moment.
Thank you, Sam. One question here. When we say suppliers, do you mean supplier of affected customers?
Yeah, when I say suppliers, I just mean energy supplier, electricity supplier.
Perfect.
Yes.
A question here saying, if the design surgeries will spend no more than 5 minutes per topics, how do we discuss more complex issues if they arise?
5-10 minutes, and substance. It will be, if there is if there's a wellspring of opinion that we need to do a deeper dive on something within the surgeries or something along those lines, then we would clearly moderate the sessions effectively. We do need to make it as accessible and as balanced for everybody as possible. Some of those have got quite a lot of scar tissue already from going deep on some specific topics at the to the detriment of other topics. But again, if something emerges that needs a specific working group, calling to do a really deep dive on it, then the program has shown that we are already taking that approach. And so we would take that into consideration if something like that was needed.
Perfect, thank you. Where parties have outstanding issues post these sessions and replan, how do they raise a change request for them? That detail is available on our public website under the change control, and I've just linked it there in the chat, so hopefully that'll be able to clarify that for you there.
Yeah, there will be, once we get post October, the design baseline will be under change control, but we will be introducing activities similar to what we've seen in other programs around preliminary change evaluation, small change, those kinds of things. Those processes are still being developed, and the design authority governance wrapper that goes around it. We're baking that at the moment. But yeah, there will absolutely be the opportunity for participants to raise design queries, design issues, and then the program will have processes in place to address those.
Thank you, Simon. Claire, I think the next three questions are kind of more so in your wheelhouse. This piece says, will all comments and responses be available to all parties with the raiser anonymous?
Yes, we will publish the comments logs, yes.
Excellent. The next one asks, where issues are found in conditionally approved or approved documents, how are these progressed?
In conditionally approved documents, if there are any substantive issues, you can feed those back via the comments and feed the, if you could please feed those back directly to design. Any of the conditionally approved artifacts that have already been updated to resolve some of the open issues will be flagged as under review, so those will be open for comment anyway.
Thank you, Claire. And the piece here saying, could we please ensure that we fully respond to comments? Currently, that is not the case.
Absolutely, yes, we will. So we have activity that we're planning at the moment for the comment resolution window in September, and we'll be publishing further detail of how that process will work and what the meeting schedule for dissensus and those kind of issues looks like in the next couple of weeks.
Brilliant, thank you. There's a question here asking where are the replan artifacts. I'm not sure it falls within the scope of this discussion at the moment, but there will be further sessions this week regarding the replan. So anything on that?
I think didn't we publish the replan artifacts last night? I'm not sure. But yeah, I think the kickoff of the replan playback is tomorrow.
Thank you. Excellent. How do I find out who my PPC rep is? So we have PPC reps for large, medium, small, I&C suppliers, software providers, enterprise code, etc. If you email the email address that just dropped in there, ppc@mhhsprogram.co.uk, we can find that out for you. Will all playback sessions be recorded and published? Yes, they will indeed. The comment window isn't quite the 3 weeks specified on the slides, plus the period overlaps with the bank holiday/holiday period. Can this be extended?
I think that's one for Claire.
Sorry. It is. So the comment window can't be extended, but by releasing the artifacts on Monday, as we previously communicated, we will accept comments from Monday onwards. So that was specifically in response to industry feedback around the previous 2-week comment window. So the comment window unofficially is from Monday until the 16th of September.
Okay, thank you. We have a question here saying, would you be open to bilateral design discussions in September to focus on O/S issues or where parties struggle to attend scheduled sessions due to holidays?
I think bilateral might be challenging. I said we've got a wash-up planned in early September to see is there further coverage needed, and we can respond to those. We do offer sort of bilateral discussions through the PPC at the moment on design, and I know that I've sat through quite a few of those so far. So that's something that again we could pick up. But if, as I said, if there are areas that we think would warrant further attention in September, subject to resource availability, we'll do our best to address those and make sure that everybody's getting the right level of service from the program.
Excellent, thank you, Simon. We have a question here saying, where does the session on Friday at 1 o'clock replan walkthrough for small suppliers fit in with the rest of these sessions? Short answer, it doesn't. These are the design sessions, the sessions that will be happening based on the replan. We'll be talking about the program plan for the program moving forward. What is the replanned event for tomorrow? Nothing in the diary. So tomorrow begins with large suppliers, and then there will be medium, small throughout the week. If you email pmo@mhhsprogram.co.uk, which I've just dropped into the chat, we can get an invite over to you for your correct constituency grouping. Question here saying, can we please make sure that version control is clear? BPDs are bunched together on the portal, so fall and foul of reviewing the wrong version in the past.
Yes, so we will be re-uploading all of the documents ready for review over this weekend, so they'll be available on Monday, and we will clearly be marking which ones are under review and which versions, and as I said, conditionally approved artifacts that have been updated will be clearly change marked.
Excellent, thank you, Claire. And then on the back of that as well, regarding the question on version control, is there an archive of older artifact versions so that these can be referred back to / compared with newer versions?
Again, we are looking at the archiving over this weekend. So yes, you should be able to access the archive documents, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. We have no new questions coming in at the moment. Just while if people have any additional questions, just to send them in on slido.com with the hashtag MHHS code. In the meantime, I'll just also note as well that you can get access to the rest of the design playback sessions, not just through Eventbrite and the schedule that I posted in earlier, but also through the collaboration base as well, through our events calendar, which I've also linked there as well. That will outline all the different events that we have on as part of the design playback sessions, and we'll bring it to Eventbrite so you can sign up for it. We've a question here saying, will there be an artifact log clearly mentioning the artifact name, the description, and the impacted parties?
Yeah, we already have that, Claire, don't we? That's a signposting document that was issued yesterday.
We do, yes, and further comms going out in the clock tomorrow, I believe, just directing people to that document.
Super,
I think we're good. Are we, Kevin, now?
No additional questions coming in. If you do have any additional questions, please do reach out at ppc@mhhsprogram.co.uk and we can put you in touch with the right person and get you an answer.
Thank you,
all
Kevin.
Good on this side?
Excellent. Thank you for that. It was excellently done there. Looking forward to more of those Slido wrap-ups in future sessions. But I hope that's been helpful for everybody and that you're clear on which sessions you might want to engage with and how the playback is going to operate and how you will be able to engage with the design once the artifacts are issued on Monday. As Kevin says, we're here to help. Raise your questions, we will respond to you, but I'm quite happy to be able to give everybody half an hour back in their diary on a Tuesday afternoon. And so, yeah, have a good Tuesday.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.